find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. Gobble, gobble, gobble.
The boniest turkey I've ever eaten. And there's two of them. It's Sophie Schwartz and Katelyn Hart. Hit it!
In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie the Butcher Schwartz.
And I'm Katelyn Turkey Leg Hart.
And we are joining you for a very special Thanksgiving Day record of the Anything Bones, the podcast where we talk about bones and bone-related topics podcast.
Yeah, today we are recording on Thanksgiving, and then when this episode is released a few days later, we will be in Christmas season, so crank that Santa Claus song.
Buckle up, because Hanukkah's right around the corner. The winter holidays are coming with an absolute vengeance.
And all you motherfuckers that say, it's too early to listen to Christmas music, I'm not ready for Christmas, get your asses ready.
Well, you better get ready.
After I have the greatest meal of the year today, I am going to be in full Christmas mode.
Yeah, we are going to go over to friends of the pod, Nick and Darren's house for a wonderful Friendsgiving. I'm bringing yams.
And I'm bringing stuffing and a signature cocktail.
Hell yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
It's going to be bone-tastic.
It's going to be a nice time. I'm excited for our Friendsgiving. Speaking of, I Googled something before we started recording, and I want to get your guess. How many bones are in a turkey, do you think?
Oh, shit. You've got me this time.
Surprise.
Surprise, bitch. Gosh, I'm going to say, they can be big birds. I'm going to say 300. 300 bones in a turkey.
You went a little over. When I Googled it, it said 200.
Okay, all right. So we've got about 6 bones on a turkey.
Isn't that awesome?
Well, there's a reason we eat them and not the other way around. That's so interesting. Thank you for that, Katelyn.
Yeah, that's your little Thanksgiving / whatever time of year you want to have a turkey trivia.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of this time of year, I think it's time to get into some Thanksgiving-y topics.
Cool, yeah. I'm excited. Mine doesn't really have to do with Thanksgiving, but it's like family.
It doesn't matter. Well, like all things on this podcast, sometimes it's a little walk to get there, but the view is always spectacular. So.
Indeed, yeah. And we were technically supposed to record last night, but I was a lazy bitch and said, "Can we do it tomorrow, please?"
And I am firmly in support of lazy bitches everywhere. So I said, of course.
Thank you again.
I looked in the mirror, saw a lazy bitch, and said, of course.
I was out like a light.
You were, but we had a nice little FaceTime conversation just to check in. Mm-hmm. And it's so adorable. Minnie is obsessed with the phone, and videos on the phone. She, every time Katelyn would take the phone away from her, she would stare at it. And then Katelyn would just put me in front of her and the cat, and Minnie would watch me talking to her. She's a really smart cat.
She's different. Today, actually, this morning, she and I were watching TikToks.
Nice.
Because she likes to lay, this is cat corner really fast, so fast, under a minute. She likes to lay next to me, kind of with my arm around her, not on me. But when I'm watching TikTok, she'll actually get on me so she can have a better view of the phone. And today we were watching a video of a cat, and she actually managed to comment on the video, just the letter M. And before I could get the phone away, the comment was sent. I was like, fuck, I just commented M on some random person's cat video. What a weirdo. So to make it even weirder, I replied to my own comment and said, oops, sorry, my cat did that. And the creator was like, oh, I always like to see cats talking to each other. So it was very silly.
You know, it's very rare these days we have nice, wholesome interactions on the internet. So I like to hear about that.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. It tickled me.
Oh, well, are you ready to get tickled by bones?
Yes.
All right. So when I think of Thanksgiving, or I think of this time of year, really, I think of family, right? You know, you gather with your family, be that the one you were born with or the one that you make through connections in your life. You know, we all have special people. And so when I was thinking of family, I thought of the family. And so today we're going to be talking about the origins of the Mafia in America.
Hell yeah. Spooky, scary.
Spooky, scary criminals.
Do you talk about casinos at all?
There will be some gambling.
Hell yeah. Yeah. When I did that casino case, Bugsy, I think was his name, but I can't remember his last name. I remember my favorite part was that they would use boats to gamble on so that you couldn't catch them. And like it was kind of unclear whether it was legal or not to gamble in a boat.
I think riverboat gambling, it's a joke, but it's a thing. Like, I think it's Missouri maybe that you can only gamble on riverboats.
That's weird.
All right. So we're talking about the Mafia. Let me get the sources off real quick. Just because a bitch forgot last week. Keen-eared listeners would have caught future Sophie slipping those sources in. Well, sometimes it's hard because you don't want to give away key things about the story, and it's like in the sources. Anyway.
Yeah. We always cite our sources with links in our website also. If anybody's like, give me credit. We do.
Always. And thankful for your contributions.
Yes.
So we've got all things interesting, grunge.com, themobmuseum.org, and then 2 articles from Wikipedia.
Love.
So the beginnings of the mob in America is traced back to urban ghettos in the 19th century where the Irish, Italian, Eastern European Jews, would struggle together to survive under the oppression of poverty in their new land.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
A lot of the times these immigrants were very much, there was a lot of prejudice against them. And so it was very hard for them to get good paying jobs. And so usually what was offered to them was lower paying jobs or criminal work, which sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, you're in between a rock and a hard place there.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a non-choice almost. So within this booming time of around 1880 to 1924, more than 4 million Italian immigrants came to live in the United States.
Lots.
And so in cities across the United States, Italian communities started welcoming in members of organized crime families from the homeland.
Okay. Yeah. Seems like it's going to bite them in the ass later, but yeah.
Well, they would welcome, of course, these criminal families, and they would run what were called black hand rackets.
Sounds like the worst game of tennis ever.
Yeah, you just get hit in the hand so many times, it's just black with bruises. Yeah. And then you pay us your money.
Yeah, and you're like, why did I do this? I hurt and I'm broke.
But at least I feel protected. So these black hand gangs, this was more of a technique which involved like extortion and protection rackets. So they'd basically be like, hey, we're protecting the community. Please pay us. And they needed that protection because, like I said, there was a lot of prejudice against Italians when they first arrived into this country. So these black hand gangs would end up offering businesses protection from these prejudices in exchange for money.
Well, that's hard because they actually give a shit about you. and they're actually trying to protect you from, when I'm guessing the real, like, regular police are not doing anything.
Oh, I didn't look into this, but I could bet you dollars to donuts they did not give a shit.
Yeah, they're like, oh, crimes against immigrants, who cares? And we still see cases like that today, where police just, like, don't give a shit.
Yeah, and it's
sad.
Interesting.
And you'd think we'd have evolved more beyond that, but...
Yeah, and like, I don't know, I was watching an interesting TikTok video. This is just a slight tangent, but I think it's very interesting to consider through all of this, is that like when Italians and Irish and Jewish and other like Eastern European people came to this country in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were not considered white in the same way. Like white at this time was considered for like Anglo-Saxon British people. And so like these discriminations would be disseminated into all these other people who weren't considered white. And then they were granted whiteness later in society. And so it's just an interesting through line of our society here in America that like people who are not granted whiteness fall into this oppression through the law and through like economic oppression.
Yeah, and then your only lifeline is a criminal enterprise. So what are you going to do?
Exactly.
You don't really have, again, like you said, it's a non-choice.
Exactly. So from this climate arrives two criminal families from the homeland of Italy. We have the Mafia and the Camorra.
Oh, God.
Right? So the Mafia comes from Sicily and the Camorra come from Naples. And if you haven't guessed by now, they do not like each other.
Oh, okay. I bet not. But I guess I could have sussed that out. But yeah.
And so on the kind of battlefield that was New York at the time, these two groups engaged in what would become to be known as the Mafia-Camorra War, which waged in New York from 1915 to 1917.
A war for 2 years between different crime organizations?
Yeah, Mafia
From
war,
Italy,
baby.
but in New York.
Yes.
Okay, wow. So many layers.
So in New York at the time, the largest gang operating was the Morello Mafia, and they were led by Giuseppe the Clutch Hand Morello, and along with his half-brothers, Nick, Vincenzo, and Sirio Terranova.
How do you get the nickname the Clutch Hand?
I can send you a picture right now.
Oh.
So this is Giuseppe, and you can see why maybe I don't know how he felt about that nickname, but I might not have liked it.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not a nice nickname.
No, he has it looks like he is missing some of his fingers on his hand. So it is, it's disparaging.
Yeah, there's no, oh God, people suck.
Yeah, that's one thing we know for sure.
I was hoping it was like he was able to like clutch his gun really fast and like shoot it a lot. I don't know. That's where I was hoping it was going. Not that they were making fun of a physical disability.
Yeah, it would have been nice if it was about him as a person. But Giuseppe Morello was actually the first known Mafia member to emigrate to the United States. And him and 6 other Sicilian Mafia members actually fled to New York after they murdered 11 wealthy landowners and the chancellor and vice chancellor of a Sicilian province.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, we got to get out of town. America sounds nice.
Yeah, the land of opportunity.
Exactly. And so on the other side of this, also seeking opportunity, are the 2 Camorra gangs. And now the Camorra in this story is split up into 2 kind of independently working gangs. And I had to literally color code my notes about this.
So do the Camorra gangs get along with each other or no?
No.
Okay.
And they don't even like each other half
Jesus
the time.
Christ, this is like West Side Story.
It is. It very much is. But the 2 Camorra gangs, one was led by Pellegrino Moreno, and he was in Coney Island, and the other was led by Alessandro Varello in a coffee shop in Brooklyn on Navy Street. So these are our players. And the Camorra, like we kind of just talked about, they share a common, like, they're under the same umbrella, but they're not as tight-knit as the Mafia. The Mafia is more about family and they work together a lot better, whereas the Camorra are like, we're all under this umbrella, but I'm going to do my own thing and you can do your own thing.
Okay.
So these two groups, the Mafia and the Camorra, didn't always like viciously hate each other. They would even sometimes invite each other to like barbecues at each other's houses.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, and so they, for a period of about 10 years, they got along okay, but tensions started to grow. And like I said, the Mafia ran protection rackets for groceries, ice, and coal, which were three things that everybody needed at the time. So they had a real monopoly on the Italian neighborhoods in that way because everyone needed these things.
Right.
And that made them very rich. The Mafia was doing very well financially. On the other side, because all of these slightly more legal businesses were taken by the Mafia, the Camorra were left with things like gambling, sex work, and drugs. So they, we have two very different groups running very different businesses. And the Camorra were only, whereas the Mafia could operate out in the open doing whatever, the Camorra had to kind of sneak around and be more sneaky. And that made them pretty bitter. So tensions really came to a head in 1913 when Nick Terranova, who was part of the Mafia, he had become the mob boss after his brother Giuseppe went to jail in 1910. Sorry, Giuseppe. And he decided that the Mafia wanted to take control of gambling from Camorra boss Joseph DeMarco.
Yeesh. I don't think that's going to go over very well.
So the Morellos were like, in order to take over this gambling racket, we got to first take out the Delgadio brothers, who controlled gambling in East Harlem. And the Morellos killed Niccolo Delgado and then scared his brother half to death.
Yikes.
The next target, of course, was the big dog, Joseph DeMarco. And that's going to be much harder to pull off than just these small-time brothers. And DeMarco ran several gambling establishments and a restaurant. And the reason that they had big beef with DeMarco, other than that they wanted to take his gambling business, was that DeMarco had tried to have Nick Terranova killed. But then in return, Nick turned around and had DeMarco shot through the neck.
And killed him?
No, he survived.
Oh, well, okay. That's good. God, there's just so much animosity.
Right? Why can't they just get along?
Well, why can't they have their thing and the other ones have their thing? Like, it sounds like there was some greediness.
I was going to say, you hit it straight on the head. The thing is greed. No one's ever happy where they're at, you know? So DeMarco survives getting shot in the neck, but of course the Mafia is a very persistent organization. So they send even more gunmen after him, and they shoot him while he's laying back in the barber's chair.
Oh, that's cold.
And he survives.
Oh, well, that's good. You're just trying to enjoy a haircut and you get shot. That's fucked up.
Yeah. So the Mafia is getting extremely frustrated by this point. They're like, are you fucking kidding me? Why can't we kill this guy? And so they decide the Terranova brothers turn to a different sect of the Camorra family. This is where we get those Navy Street boys coming in. And they hire these Navy Street sect of the Camorra to go kill another member of the Camorra, DeMarco.
Okay.
And they find DeMarco and they shoot him 10 times during a backroom poker game. And they do finally kill him, along with his friend, Nine-Fingered Charlie.
Oh, what'd Charlie ever do to anybody? Probably something, but still.
Something. So this sent shockwaves through the entire crime community of New York at the time. And this was very counter to what the Italian community was actually trying to do right now. Pellegrino Marado, who I mentioned earlier, who's a Camorra guy, he wanted unity for all of these Italian crime organizations. He thought that if everybody worked together, they could achieve a lot more instead of fighting.
Sure, that makes total sense. I mean, yeah, maybe not totally realistic, but that's a nice perspective.
Exactly. But of course, like you said, not totally realistic, because the Morellos, the Mafia, had no intention of sharing any of their wealth or influence with the Camorra. And the Camorra knew they were being shut out, and they hated that. And it really ended up making the Camorra ready to make moves against the Mafia. In his 2011 book, The First Family, Terror, Extortion, and the Birth of the American Mob, Mike Dash wrote that Moreno was incredibly displeased to hear what the Terranovas were doing. And he said, quote, "I will show them who Don Pellegrino Morano is. I will have them all killed."
So the Mafia is just trying to kill off the Camorra, basically.
The Mafia is trying to shut the Camorra out, and the Camorra know about this, and now the Camorra is coming after the Mafia.
Got it.
This is why I had to color code.
Yeah,
things.
there's a lot of players.
Moreno, who is a Camorra guy, he ends up making the first move. He invites the Terranova brothers, who are Mafia, over to have a chat about possible unity, about possibly dividing up the gambling rackets in a more fair way. And in preparation for the Mafia's arrival, Moreno had his men smear their bullets with garlic and pepper so that they would make sure that the wounds would be infected.
Jesus God. That's so weird.
It's weird. But
also,
it's a
isn't
Mafia
garlic
thing.
antiseptic?
It is, but like they knew that.
I know, yeah, but what?
So when the Mafia gets there, it's only Nick Terranova and one other guy. And Moreno is like, whatever, I thought I was going to get more people. He kills them both. So the Mafia is completely caught off guard by this. They didn't think the Camorra was capable, you know? And so in this chaos of this, this double homicide, the Camorra end up going out and killing 6 more Mafia members. And it's interesting to note that, like, the Camorra only have about 40 people in their organization at this time, whereas the Mafia is much larger, better connected, and has better financial resources.
So yeah, they're the underdogs, and they just killed 8 people, like, in one night, it sounds like.
Yeah, just boom, boom, boom. They were like, this thing is popping off, so we're going now.
Yeah.
So after they have eliminated a good amount of Mafia members in their territory. So they start doing basically what the Mafia is doing and extorting and offering protection rackets to the community members around them. Unfortunately for them, the Italian community members are like, hey, we don't think that the Camorra is going to be in charge for very long. So we're actually going to pay you kind of whatever we want, and you just have to take it.
Okay. That's funny.
And the Camorra was just kind of like, ugh, fine, because they are still hunting down all the Mafia bosses, because they know that if they don't kill every single fucking member of the Mafia, they're going to turn around and wreck their shit. They will be absolutely boned if they can't get every influential Mafia member.
It's funny to me, though, that people think like, oh, we'll just kill the boss and everything will be good. It's like, don't you think there's people under the boss that could, like, that will step up and, like, it's just never ending?
Yeah, exactly. All of this is going down. And another member of the Mafia, Giuseppe Veronazio, who is with the Mafia, he wants to open up a gambling house. And it's like, guy,
give it a
gambling is
rest.
for the Camorra. Yeah, stop this. And so this, of course, pisses off the Navy Street Boys, who we've talked about before. They're a sect of the Camorra. And they're going to hatch a plan to kill this Mafia member. So this Giuseppe is walking around minding his own business. He sees a Navy Street member. He tries to kill him, but then he's spotted by more members of the Camorra, so he has to leave. During this time, it's kind of open season on all of these Mafia and Camorra members. If they saw each other out on the street, it was, as the kids say, on sight.
Yeah, wow.
And since the Camorra were having very little success killing these mafia members, they decided to go after their businesses next. So they tried to wrest control of the artichoke business from...
Sorry.
Artichokes were huge at this time, especially in the Italian
They're
community.
delicious. It's just not what I was expecting, like, would come up. Like, you don't think about how big the industry is for, like, artichokes, onions, like, broccoli, whatever. But then you hear about it, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, artichokes are really big in Italian cuisine. So, like, whoever
artichoke
controls...
hearts are so fucking good.
Yeah, whoever controls the artichokes is king, baby. Of course, the Camorra didn't have enough power to do this, so they failed once again. Through this time, they are still killing each other back and forth, and the Camorra is able to kill a lot of mafia members during this time. But they didn't kill the right mafia members. Because one slippery, wiggly boy got away. Ralph Daniello was just a small member of the Navy Street Boys. And those are Camorra. And he decided he wanted out, so he escaped to Reno with his 16-year-old girlfriend.
Ugh.
After being acquitted of robbery and abduction charges.
Uh-oh.
So he had big beef with... Do you remember Vorello? He's like the head of the Navy Street guys, and they're Camorra. He was not paying his Camorra soldiers enough money. And so our guy Ralph was like, hey, will you pay me more money? And he's like, I don't think so. So in the summer of 1917, Ralph the Butcher ended up writing a letter to the NYPD offering to sell them information about the Camorra.
Damn. Uh-oh. Snitches get stitches.
Well, in this case, Ralph the Butcher spent nearly 2 months telling the police everything that he knew about the Camorra. And so they were able to solve about a little over 24 murders, and they were able to get leads on hundreds of open cases. And it was the biggest mob collaboration in history. And within a couple of weeks, most of the Camorra was behind bars.
Damn.
So this was a watershed moment in American crime syndicate history, because this is the moment where, you know, in this moment, we could have been watching Camorra movies and people dressing up as Camorra members, but we don't. We have Mafia movies. People talk about Mafia bosses. This utter defeat, this annihilation of the Camorra through this confession cemented the Mafia in American popular consciousness. Now we think mob, mafia. There's a direct connection. And because the Camorra were wiped out so completely, the Mafia was able to dominate the Italian crime scene to the present.
Yeah, entirely. Yeah, because at the beginning I was going to say, I don't know that I've ever heard of the Camorra.
And this is
And there's
why.
a reason.
Yes, exactly. Because if you don't pay your people good, they will snitch on you.
Yeah.
Even more important is that because the Camorra were shut out of the crime scene because of, you know, being so heavily imprisoned, they were not able to join an organization called the Five Families, which is America's most prevalent crime syndicate to this day. And of course, the Morello family would become the Genovese family, which, if that rings any bells to you, is one of the most dangerous American crime families in history. And we'll probably cover them another time.
Yeesh. Cool.
So when you're sitting around with your family on Thanksgiving, be glad that they are not the Mafia. And if they are, remember to pay everyone fairly.
Yeah, and good luck to you.
And good luck to you. That's my story.
Boom. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Well, everybody go grab an artichoke heart, suck it dry, and we'll see you back real soon.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Hey guys, I'm Shelby, host of Addicted to Crime podcast. Join us for deep, chilling dives into the evil nature of criminals, and let's take a closer look at their early life and background to see how they got to the day of the crime. This podcast was created in hopes you pay closer attention to your surroundings and hopefully stay safe. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts or else on the website www.addictedtocrime.org. Happy listening, thanks for your time, and stay safe.
Hey, if you don't give me that artichoke, I'm gonna shoot you in the street.
No, please. I don't have enough hollandaise sauce made yet. Let me finish the hollandaise. I don't know. What do they serve with artichoke hearts? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of just you boil the whole artichoke and then you just melt a bunch of butter in a little bowl and you just
there you go.
Dip the artichoke leaves, maybe some garlic up in there.
Let's see. Okay, I just looked it up. Artichokes go well with dairy, like butter, cream cheese, goat cheese, sour cream, cream sauces, Parmesan, and feta. All right. It all sounds good. I'm just thinking about the meal we're going to have later, and I'm just salivating.
I know, I'm a hungry boy.
Okay, so getting into my delightful topic. It's still murder. I'm still talking about it.
Caitlin, why don't you give this murder thing a rest?
I can't. I like talking about it. I don't necessarily like the actions. I never like the actions of murderers. God, what am I saying? But I just think there are lessons to be learned in these cases, and there's a lot to learn.
I'm sorry to derail us very quickly, but did you see, that guy who ran over a bunch of people with his car?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that he was sentenced to about 1,000 years in prison?
Yeah, hell yeah.
God, and he represented himself.
Ugh, God. Such an asshole move when they do that. It's like, you're guilty as fuck in my eyes when I see that.
I'm going to send you a YouTube video of this cool lawyer who she breaks down why it's unwise to represent yourself.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah,
with him as an example. And
I love that.
Nuts,
I love that.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. So for today's story, I am going to tell you about the murder of 25-year-old Cody Johnson.
Oh, Cody.
Yes. So my sources for this were BBC, Glacier National Park Travel Guide.com, Murderpedia, CNN, Medium, and then FlatheadBeacon.com.
My homepage, of course.
Yeah. So Cody Johnson meets Jordan Graham at church in Montana in 2011, 2012.
Oh, whoa. This is recent.
This is pretty recent. Yeah. Cody wasn't super religious at the time, but Jordan was, and I guess they started dating each other, and then they started going to church more and more. That's kind of where their relationship started, and the basis of it was their faith. Cody was very quickly in love with Jordan. He thought she was just the shit, but mutual friends sort of reported that Jordan didn't necessarily seem to have the same feelings about her boyfriend Cody as Cody felt about her.
Oh no.
She would make excuses to not hang out with him. Friends said that they never saw them kiss or hug or be affectionate with each other. So when they started talking about marriage, everybody was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And because it was they don't seem like they're that happy, or he seems happy, but she doesn't seem happy.
Yeah.
So everybody was pretty surprised when he proposed to her, and she said yes after 1 year of dating.
Oh, girl, just say no. Just say no if you don't want to marry him. I know it's really hard, and I myself am so guilty of this, of we've talked about this a couple times. There's a guy at the supermarket who keeps trying to fucking talk to me, and I always try to be nice because I don't want to be a bitch, but it's rip off the Band-Aid. Tell people you don't like them.
Yeah, it's hard to do. It's way easier said than done.
Yes.
But if people were honest with each other all the time, we would live in a very different world, I think.
I mean, I just like every true crime podcast, I'll say it right here and I'll say it right now. Divorce them. Don't kill them.
Yes. Another thing, just go to therapy. Just please.
Please. I mean, we're preaching to the choir. Our listeners know this.
So she posts a picture of her ring on Instagram, and people are like, oh, okay, I guess they're they're doing it. Wow, it doesn't make a lot of sense. They got married June 29th, 2013. Apparently during the wedding, Jordan was like looking down during the ceremony. She like wasn't looking at Cody, and she appeared very uncomfortable and didn't seem very like happy and smiling like you would expect on someone's wedding day.
Oh, God, that sucks.
Jordan's friend and maid of honor, Katrina, later said that Jordan was definitely having cold feet before the wedding. She had asked Katrina several times if, like, this was the right decision. And then, like, it says right after the wedding ceremony, but, I mean, who knows what that actually means. But allegedly, she texted Katrina, quote, "I should be happy and I'm just not."
Oh, God.
Other friends chime in with their opinion. So Cody's groomsman, his name is Cameron, he had warned Cody not to marry Jordan, saying, quote, "She was just very distant and reserved. Their interaction with each other, it didn't seem like a happy, loving relationship that you would normally see. It was just very awkward."
Yeah, I think, you know, you have no idea what's going on in like another person's relationship, right? Like the private times that like, yeah, like people are alone together. You have no idea what, you know, that's like. But I think, you know, when you have really close friends, they know you super well. And like, I think their opinions are just very valid and valuable.
Yeah. And like, not necessarily like you need to live your life based off the opinions of others. You never should.
Of course not. Yeah.
But if all of your friends are telling you that something is wrong, like all the people you care about or a good amount of people, just maybe take inventory of that. You know, like just do some soul searching. Again, go to fucking therapy.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get yourself into a situation where now you're suddenly married to someone and it's so clear that it's not gonna work out. But she just wanted to, I guess, make him happy, or like was too afraid to say no. It's so messy and unclear why she even agreed to marry him in the first place when most people knew that it wasn't. Like, you can tell if a relationship is loving. Like, we've all been around that couple where they're just, like, fighting the whole time that you're with them.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like they were, like, fighting. They were just, like, not comfortable with each other. And that's also weird.
Yeah, definitely. Well, proceed.
Yeah, you can see maybe where this is going.
I don't want it to, though. I feel so bad for this guy because, like, I feel like he has blinders on. Like, you know, he's got the love blinders on, which we've all had the love blinders on. They're very strong. And,
of course.
They can block out the biggest red flags. And I just, you know, but even in my mind, I'm like, I wish I could go back in time and like shake this dude, but it sounds like people did.
People tried. It seems like their friends were, you know, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but
exactly.
Their friends said that they tried. Apparently she had very like negative things to say about their sex life. And I don't know if that meant that because, you know, like they're religious, so maybe we can infer that they were waiting until marriage, and so maybe she was like afraid to have sex. It's not really clear, but allegedly Jordan texted her friend Katrina. She told Cody she was on her period, and so they wouldn't have to consummate the marriage.
Yeah, I mean, I think sex is always like a tricky thing where it's like, you know, she should definitely never feel obligated to like have sex with him, right? Like right, she should like, you know, she should never feel like, oh, I should just have sex with him because he like wants me to. But also like, if you're not in a like asexual relationship specifically, like sex is a big part of like, you know, intimate relationships.
And the
fact
that she was just like trying to get out of it by lying rather than saying, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this, where they could have had like a discussion about it. It seems like she just wanted to blame other things rather than telling him about the actual root of her problem. And that, I mean, I'm not married, but I assume that you should be able to tell your person what your issues are, and you should be able to like speak with them openly. And if you're just like hiding behind, oh, I'm on my period, like don't touch me, that's not good for anybody to be just like lied to or lying.
No, and I think that's definitely like, you know, we can armchair psychologists like all we want. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. You actually have a degree. But like, I think that speaks to like, yeah, a larger problem. Like, I think, something else was going on there for her.
Definitely. Yeah. And the thing about, waiting until marriage, that's just me guessing. It was not spelled out in any of my sources. I'm just like speculating because they were religious.
Yeah.
Or she was, particularly, at least. So now that we've got the backstory, we're going to jump ahead to 8 days. 8 days after their wedding. It's July 8th, 2013, and Cody doesn't show up for work.
Oh, no. I hate this part.
This is where it gets bad. So his family and friends are concerned. He's not the type of guy. Sounds like he was pretty responsible. He's not the type of guy to just, be a no-call, no-show.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan's like, oh, he left yesterday. And remember, nobody's heard from him in 8 days. She's like, oh, he left yesterday. I don't know where he went, but, it's probably fine. And they're kind of like, wait, what? Like, we haven't heard from him in 8 days. You're saying you haven't heard from him in a day and you don't know where he is, but you're fine with that? That doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, don't you want to know? Like,
yeah, if Joe doesn't text me in like a 6-hour period, I'm like, he's been taken. I'm gonna have to do a Liam Neeson style taken. Get your shit, Katelyn. We're going.
We're off to wherever.
Belgium. He's been taken by the Belgians. Oh, the Belgians, they're coming.
So the more his friends and family pressed, apparently the more agitated Jordan got. At one point, she allegedly took her wedding ring off and threw it across the room in front of people.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so everybody's like, what? Like, what's going on? So she's no help, so police get involved. Now she's telling another story. She tells investigators that Cody texted her that he was going for a drive with some friend from out of state. Remember, they're in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And we delete all of our text messages, so I don't have anything to show you, but he texted me that he was going for a drive and I haven't heard from him since. And I don't have any evidence of that. Just take my word for it.
We delete all our text messages?
I don't know.
Really? I'm sorry.
And it's 2013, so you would think they'd be able to figure that out. Just because you delete a message doesn't mean that data's gone, I feel like.
No, but did we have the cloud and shit then?
Who knows, but it's sus. Yeah. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So she tells her friends later on, police are investigating. They're starting to put up missing flyers. And she's like, oh, I just got an email from one of Cody's friends, and his name is Tony S.
Tony
sent this email that says that Cody is dead and he fell off a cliff on a trip to Glacier National Park.
What?
Yep. So Tony sent me this email, guys, and I actually have the proof this time. Here's the email.
This is wild. Who is Tony?
So, who's Tony? Good question. You'll find out soon.
Guess, yeah.
Okay, so this is the best lead that they've got so far. So they're starting to investigate Glacier National Park. Jordan gets a gaggle of her friends, and I think Cody's brother as well, together on July 11th and says, God has a plan, and I'm going to find Cody. I'm not quoting, but basically she's like,
yeah.
Get in, losers, we're going to go find Cody. Because God knows, so I know.
Well, God knows a lot of stuff, so I would be inclined to trust him on this one.
Apparently, all the people in the car would later say that she was in a really weirdly good mood. She was laughing and singing and just, not really acting the way somebody whose husband is missing, their brand new husband is missing.
This is a brand spanking new husband, and
she's gotten an email that says he's dead in Glacier National Park. She's laughing and singing in the car. What?
Yeah, no. If that happened to me, I don't even know. I would be on an amount of medication that is not understandable by human thought.
It's just, yeah, she's not, and I've said this before, I hope, but I'll say it again. You can't judge someone's trauma response from the outside necessarily, because people respond to trauma in a lot of different ways. It's not necessarily a big breakdown and crying and stuff. They can turn inward and appear very cold, but they're that's not the case at all.
Yeah, I think, it's a big thing to consider that, like, everyone has a different response and that the brain does weird things when you're experiencing trauma.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
All these things are not stacking up and looking very good for Jordan.
It's just a circumstance that just boggles the mind.
So she drives the crew to this area in Glacier National Park called the Loop, and they go to this ravine. It's about a 200-foot tall ravine, and they immediately find Cody's body at the bottom of the ravine. She apparently looks over the edge and goes, "Oh my gosh, it's him."
Wow. That was fast.
Yeah, God led her right to him. Can you believe that?
I actually cannot.
Yeah, you're right. Again, allegedly on the drive back, she said, well, now that we found the body, we can have a funeral and the police can get out of it.
Okay, well, she's saying the quiet part out loud.
Yep. Yeah. And it's like, either way, just because you found his body, there still needs to be an investigation, bro. Like, remember Tony's email that you received that said he was dead and now he's at the bottom of a ravine dead? It's like, there's gonna be an investigation no matter what.
Yeah, unfortunately, by finding the body, you've actually made the case against you stronger.
This is what some criminals do. They need to insert themselves into the investigation, and it makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to fathom the reasoning on that.
And investigators were pretty baffled as well. So when they brought Jordan in for questioning on July 16th, 2013, they're like, how did you find Cody's body so quickly? And she says that she, God led her there. And it was the one place that Cody had wanted to see before he died. So of course, that's where his dead body was going to be, right?
That's not how that works, actually.
So remember, this is like the third version of events so far. Like, first she's like, he left yesterday, I don't know where he is. Then it's, oh, he left a while ago on a drive with a buddy. And now it's like, well, I knew where his body was because it's the place that he wanted to visit before he died.
Something's not adding up.
So here comes some real police work. Surveillance cameras show Jordan and Cody entering the park in Cody's car, and then they show her leaving by herself.
Well, there you go.
So, riddle me this.
Good job, officers.
She had originally said that she and Cody weren't fighting up until his disappearance, but Cody's text messages to his friends and family said that they were having trouble. It wasn't very good 8 days in. And though he felt like he had married the right person, he was struggling. The most damning piece of evidence is that the IP address of Tony S.'s email was Jordan's parents' house, and actually her stepfather's computer had been where the email originated from.
Oh, no. Tony, you're not real.
Yep.
Who could have predicted this one?
So at this point, it's pretty clear what's going on. Police are presenting her with all of this evidence, and she does finally confess to accidentally pushing Cody off a cliff.
I would love for you to tell me how someone accidentally pushes someone off a cliff.
I'll tell you what she told people. But what the injuries to Cody's body showed were that he had fallen head first, and he had injuries to his arms and head, and there was also a piece of cloth next to his body that some believed could have been a blindfold.
Wow. That gives me the heebie-jeebies in a big way.
So Jordan is charged with first-degree murder and 1 count of making false statement to police, and she's arrested. She pleads not guilty and testifies that, she was having second thoughts about her marriage to Cody, and they went for a hike in Glacier National Park, and they were talking, then it escalated into an argument. She told the court that Cody grabs her arm during a fight, and she defends herself by pushing him off a cliff. She said, quote, "I wasn't thinking about where we were. I just pushed."
Oh.
And then she drove home in Cody's car by herself, and of course didn't tell anybody that he was at the bottom of a ravine where, you know, I assume he probably died on impact if he went head first, but medical attention could have come and determined that, you know, it's sad and it's hideous. And he's been married for 8 days. And it's like, this happens? You marry somebody that's not right for you, and then 8 days later you kill him? Like, fuck you.
Yeah, this story is very upsetting because I feel like this guy was just, there was a whole other world he didn't know about going on in her head.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
Then this, you know, for him probably came out of nowhere. And just what a horrible fucking way to die. What a horrible way to die. That's fucking hideous.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. It's like, get a divorce.
Please.
Like, leave. Run away. They're so, like...
Tell him.
Those are
just
both terrible.
Tell him.
Those are not great things, but it's like, you never, ever need to push somebody off a cliff that you're in a relationship with or married to. Like, you don't have to get it to that point. There's no reason.
No. The rationale on this one is very hard to get behind.
Yeah, so she claims, I'm glad you said that leads into this perfectly. In court, she said that she was fearful of having to fulfill sexual obligations in her marriage and that she was physically ill at the thought of having sex with her husband. She also said that he wanted her to, like, do things in the bedroom that she wasn't comfortable with. Who knows if that's true.
See, this is the hard part about this one because, like, yeah, like we said, just, like, communication would have solved a lot of, not solved, but, like, gone a long way for these people. But it's, like, so hard because, like, fear, like, having a fear of sex or like having a fear of someone having sex with you without your consent, like that's completely valid. You know, your body, your own autonomy. Like if you have a fear of someone being in your space and touching you in a way you don't like, you know, I don't think you should be made to do those things. But it's hard because like then the action she took because of that, or if that's how she really felt, I just, you know, it's like we said, it's never necessary to push someone off a cliff, but also like just the sexual stuff makes it sticky for me in this way. You know what I mean?
But just from another perspective, you know, she was saying this all after the fact. So he's dead. He can't defend himself.
Yeah, no, he can't say anything about it.
And we know she has a history of lying.
Exactly.
So I have, with this particular case, I have trouble believing her. It seems to me like it's very plausible that she could be saying all these things to try and defend her actions that day, when really all that needed to happen was they needed to not be married or they needed to get a divorce or, you know, how did we even get to this point, you know?
I mean, it's extremely, extremely rare, but like people do lie about these things. It's, you know, I feel like in, you know, I don't have any statistics, but like most of the time, like people don't want to like own up to this stuff. Like people don't want to say this stuff because there's a lot of shame around it. So it's like the amount of people who lie about it is very small, but the people who do, that's incredibly insidious because it invalidates everyone else for which this is true. You know, that's why I'm having a hard time, because it's like, you know, she could be a liar and this is her defense. This is her way of justifying pushing her fucking husband off a cliff. But the other part of me is like, what if she really was afraid to like do sex stuff with him and he was like pressuring her? But it's, you know, but you say that, you know, if you look at her pattern of behavior, you know, you see where I'm at here, right?
Yeah, it's tricky. And she did something buck wild in the trial. Right before closing arguments, remember, she pleaded not guilty at the beginning. Right before closing arguments, she changes her plea to guilty and accepts a plea deal for second-degree murder rather than first-degree. And she got 30 years in prison. She was sentenced on March 27th, 2014.
Wow. Yeah, hard to know what to make of that.
Yeah. The sentencing judge, U.S. District Judge Donald Malloy, said at her sentencing, quote, "There's only one person in this room that knows what happened, and I don't think she's been entirely truthful." which is a very fair statement, I think.
Yes.
Now, there was, in 2015, a federal public defender named Michael Donahue, I'm sorry, I don't know, filed an appeal on Jordan Graham's behalf, saying that her sentence was extreme. They've tried a lot of different legal tactics. They wanted a new trial because they wanted her to be retried for manslaughter, I guess. One of my sources said that at one point she confessed to using that blindfold as part of the timeline of events, but that was only one source. So I don't know if she ever actually confessed to blindfolding him.
It seems like her story changes very often.
Exactly. But the prosecution believes that she has no right to request a new trial because she took a fucking plea deal.
Yeah,
and knew
you didn't
exactly
go through
what
with
she was
it.
getting into. So it's like, what are you doing? So anyway, on February 17th, 2016, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals filed a formal mandate in her case that ended any hope she had of appealing her case. She's just going to have to suck it up.
I mean, sorry, bitch. 30 years, it could have been life.
Yeah.
Ugh. This one is a puzzle for the brain, but also boils my blood.
Yeah.
The more I find out about it.
Yep. And that's my story.
Oh, God, Caitlin. You have been on such a fucking hot streak with your murders lately. Wow. That one's so intense. 8 days.
8 days of marriage and this happened.
Man. And it's this is interesting because it's super relevant. There's a case that's in the news. Do you know about this? I forget what her name is. I think her name is Christian. She's an influencer, fitness model, OnlyFans lady. And she was in this toxic, abusive type relationship, but it's hard to tell who is abusing who if it's a mutual thing. But she did stab her boyfriend with a serrated blade and killed him.
Jesus.
And it's another one of these really difficult things because there's footage of her in this, hotel lobby where a hotel or a apartment lobby where an employee had to get between him charging at her. But there's also footage from an elevator where it looks like they're fighting each other and she's the aggressor. So it's
messy.
Exactly.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, I want to look into this case a little bit more, but it's this thing of the judge said, there's only one person around to tell the story of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And, in cases like this with domestic violence, it's really difficult because men are victims of domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And I feel like people don't take that into account a lot of the time.
Yeah. What can we learn from this? Well, people should never do anything that they don't want to do.
Yes.
But you also have to talk about your feelings, as much as it sucks sometimes. And if you're not happy in a relationship, you're not going to be happy in a marriage to that same person. So you got to maybe figure it out before the ring's on your finger.
Yeah, I think communication would have gone a long way. And what can we learn from the mob wars?
Don't get greedy.
Exactly. Don't get greedy and always pay your employees fairly.
We love that. Okay, well, we got to get to cooking.
Yeah, I really do. I got to get yams going.
So, happy holidays, everyone. I know this is going to come out after Thanksgiving, but hope you had a great one, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we love you. And as always,
bon
voyage. Goodbye.
Gobble, gobble.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook
at anythingbonespodcast or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter.
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
At Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe. I know, I'm a hungry boy. Yummy, yummy, yummy!